What if your biggest weakness could actually become your greatest strength? Today, we're diving into a leadership blueprint from someone who was, well, literally in chains, but still managed to influence kings and, change the course of history. So let's figure out how he pulled it off. Our whole story kicks off with this incredible quote from the Apostle Paul. Just picture it. He's a prisoner, he's in chains, he's speaking to royalty, but his main concern is for their transformation, not his own freedom. I mean, this just perfectly sets up the paradox we're looking at today. How do you lead from a place of what looks like profound weakness? And that really is the million-dollar question for this whole explainer, isn't it? How can a guy in chains, on trial for his life, completely command the attention of kings and governors? Well, the answer is a total masterclass in a very unique kind of leadership. So this gets us to the core idea. Your constraints, your chains, they don't have to be the end of your influence. Actually, if you're smart about it, they can be transformed into a platform that makes your message even louder. Let's just define what we mean by this metaphor, chains as catalysts. It's all about reframing those challenges, right? Things like budget cuts or resistance from your team or opposition. Instead of seeing them as just roadblocks, you see them as tools. These chains can actually force you to be more creative, they clarify your mission, and they can amplify your impact in ways that, let's be honest, comfort and ease never could. So, okay, how do you actually do this? How do you make it work? The answer, according to the source, lies in something called the H.O.P.E framework. It's basically a blueprint for this exact kind of principled leadership. All right, let's walk through this. First up, H is for holiness, but you can really just think of it as integrity, who you are when nobody's watching. That's your foundation. Then O is for obedience, but not blind obedience. It's about submission to a higher purpose, a mission bigger than you. That's where real authority comes from, not a job title. P is for promise. This means anchoring yourself in a long-term vision, not getting swept up in the panic of the present moment. And finally, E stands for evangelism, which in this context really just means your mission. It's about advancing that core mission, no matter what it costs you personally. The big takeaway here is that this kind of leadership isn't about power, it's all about purpose. But look, a framework is only one part of the puzzle. This leader was also using this really sophisticated toolkit of different intelligences, all working together. Now that we have the what, let's really get into the how. And there's a name for this approach. The source calls it HolistIQ. The idea is pretty cool. It's not about just being smart in one way. It's about weaving together 3 different kinds of intelligence: spiritual, emotional, and logical, to create this powerful, holistic way of influencing people. And this table really shows holistic IQ in action. So his spiritual intelligence, that was about reframing the whole situation, seeing his trial not as a disaster, but as a golden opportunity. Then you have emotional intelligence. That's all about managing his own emotions, staying calm under pressure, and reading the room. And finally, logical intelligence. This is him building a clear, strategic, and reasonable case. He's blending all 3 of these in real time. The point is, real influence isn't one-dimensional. It engages people on every level: purpose, emotion, and reason. Okay, so we've got the framework, and we've got the toolkit. But how does all this theory actually hold up under fire? Let's watch how it was all deployed against some really intense opposition. This is where it gets good. When the big moment came, Paul didn't lead with some complex theological argument. Nope. He led with his most powerful and authentic asset, his own story. He just understood that a personal story of real transformation is almost always more persuasive than a dry argument. And you can see the narrative arc he builds right here. It's a classic before and after story, and it's brilliant. He starts with who he was, the persecutor. Then he moves to the dramatic turning point, the vision, and he wraps it up with his new identity and purpose, the mission. This simple 3-act structure makes his change totally undeniable and his message incredibly compelling. But here's the thing. Telling a great story is one thing. Telling it while you're literally on trial for your life, well, that takes a whole other level of skill. That's where emotional intelligence comes in. And then, bam, the pressure cranks way up. The Roman governor, Festus, just publicly mocks him, shouting that he's completely insane. I mean, this is a direct, personal, humiliating attack from a guy with immense power. Paul's response here is just a masterclass in emotional regulation. He doesn't get defensive, he doesn't fire back an insult. Instead, he addresses Festus with respect, most excellent Festus, calmly denies the charge, and then pivots right back to his core message. He's controlling his emotions to stay on mission. It's incredible. So after navigating that emotional minefield perfectly, Paul just seamlessly layers on his logical intelligence. This isn't just some heartfelt story anymore. It's now a meticulously constructed legal argument. You can see the steps of his argument here. He establishes his credentials, he links his message to their shared history and prophecies, he provides eyewitness testimony, he even appeals to verifiable public facts, saying, this wasn't done in a corner. And he finishes it all off with a crystal clear mission statement. It shows he's using faith and reason as partners, not enemies. To even attempt to lead this way, you have to completely throw out the old rulebook. It requires a fundamentally different scorecard for what success, what a win actually looks like. Think about it. Conventional success is all about freedom, comfort, position, your own personal advancement. But for Paul, success was about faithfulness to the mission. It was about having an impact. It was about purpose and advancing a cause way bigger than himself. For him, winning wasn't about getting out of the chains, it was about using the chains effectively. So let's bring this all back home. How can we possibly apply this ancient case study to our modern world? Why should this leadership blueprint matter to any of us today? The truth is, we all face chains in one way or another. Maybe for you, it's budget cuts at work, or a team that's resistant to change, or maybe just cultural headwinds. But the lesson here is that these aren't just problems, they could be platforms in disguise. The real question is, how are you going to use them? And that really leaves us with one final powerful question to think about. Will your limitations be the things that define you or the things that refine you? Will they be your excuse for failure or the catalyst for your greatest growth? The choice really is yours.